Everything you think you own, you don't. Not really. Not in the way people used to. Not your music, not your movies, not your games, not even the software you use every day. And the strangest part is, most people didn't notice when it happened. Because it didn't happen all at once. There was no big announcement. No obvious turning point. No moment where someone said, from now on, ownership is optional. It happened quietly, piece by piece, one convenience at a time, and each change felt small, reasonable, even helpful. Until one day you look around and realize you don't actually keep much anymore. You access it, you borrow it, you subscribe to it, you log into it, you pay monthly for it, but you don't really own it. And that changes more than people realize, because ownership was never just about possession. It shaped behavior, it shaped attention, it shaped how long things stayed with you. Take music. You used to own your music, CDs on shelves, albums stacked in drawers, songs burned onto discs. You didn't have everything. That was part of the point. You chose carefully. And because you chose carefully, what you owned mattered more. You replayed albums, you learned lyrics, you listened deeply, not because music was better then, because scarcity created attention. You stayed with what you had. Then streaming arrived, and at first it felt like pure improvement. Every song you could want, instantly, no storage, no buying decisions, no friction, just press play. And that felt like freedom. But something else changed underneath it. You stopped building a collection and started accessing one. That difference sounds small. It isn't. Because a collection is yours. Access is conditional. It depends on a service, a payment, a platform, a license, and that means it can change. Songs disappear, albums get removed, artists pull content, and suddenly the thing you thought you had is gone. Not broken, gone, because you never owned it. You were leasing access to it, and that changes how you listen. When everything is available, nothing feels rare. You skip faster, you stay less, you move on more easily. Your taste becomes guided by recommendation systems, suggested playlists, daily mixes, because you listen to this. And slowly, discovery becomes less personal. It becomes something delivered to you. That's not just a technology shift, it's a behavior shift. And music wasn't the end of it. Movies followed the same path. You used to own your movies too. DVD shelves, box sets, collections built over years. Back then, owning a movie mattered because movies were not always available. You had to wait for them, find them, record them, or buy them. And when you bought them, they stayed. That film you loved didn't vanish because a deal expired. It sat on your shelf, ready when you were. Then streaming arrived and changed the feeling of everything. Now every movie seemed available all the time, any genre, any night, any screen. And again, it felt like progress. No clutter, no discs, no storage. But just like music, you stopped building a collection. You started browsing one, and browsing is different. Browsing keeps you restless. You scroll more, choose less carefully, commit less fully, because the library never feels settled. It rotates, licensing changes, films move between platforms. One month it's there, the next month it isn't. And that means you don't own movies anymore either. You chase them, from platform to platform, subscription to subscription. And once you start chasing things instead of keeping them, your relationship with them changes. You return less, remember less, attach less, because ownership helps something stay in your life. Access keeps it temporary. Then games moved even further. Games used to come in boxes, cartridges, discs, manuals. You bought a game, and that was the game, complete, finished, yours. You could lend it, trade it, keep it for years. And again, that shaped behavior. The game had boundaries. It had an ending. It had a stable form. Then games became connected, then downloadable, then service-based. Now a game can update constantly, expand endlessly, change after purchase, sometimes improve, sometimes break, sometimes disappear altogether. Servers shut down, support ends, entire worlds vanish, games people paid for, progress people built, time people invested, gone, because increasingly you do not own the game. You are allowed to access it, and access can be withdrawn. That's a much bigger shift than it sounds, because once games become services, they stop being finished products. They become ongoing environments, not something you keep, something you remain inside. And the longer you remain inside, the more valuable you become to the platform. Which brings us to software. Software used to end. That sounds strange now, but it's true. You bought it once, installed it, learned it, used it, and because it was stable, you could master it. It didn't move around every few weeks. It didn't redesign itself overnight. It didn't hide functions behind a subscription upgrade next month. What you paid for was the tool, and the tool stayed put. Then software became a service. Updates became constant, then automatic, then unavoidable, and software stopped being finished. Now your tools change underneath you. Features move, disappear, reappear somewhere else. Interfaces shift, pricing models change. Capabilities get bundled, unbundled, limited, expanded. And all of that can happen after you've already committed. Because you don't really own the software anymore either. You subscribe to it, you access it, you depend on it, and dependence is different from ownership. Ownership gives stability. Dependence gives convenience with conditions. That's the pattern underneath all of this. Ownership has been replaced not by loss, but by convenience. That's why it was so easy to accept. Every step in the process felt better in one obvious way. Streaming is easier than buying albums. Movie libraries and apps are easier than shelves. Digital games are easier than discs. Cloud software is easier than boxed software. All true, but easier isn't the whole story. Because every convenience comes with a trade in control, a trade in permanence, a trade in stability, a trade in the way you relate to the thing itself. When you own something, you keep it. When you keep it, you return to it. When you return to it, it becomes part of your life differently. Ownership creates continuity. Access creates availability. Those are not the same thing. Availability is wide but shallow. Continuity is narrower but deeper. And modern life keeps choosing width. More options, more access, more instant availability, at the cost of depth. That's why so many things now feel abundant, but strangely thin. You can watch anything, but remember less of it. You can hear everything, but attach to less of it. You can access endless tools, but master fewer of them, because abundance changes behavior. And when abundance is controlled by platforms, it also changes power. The platform decides what stays, what leaves, what updates, what gets recommended, what gets buried. And once that power moves away from the person using the thing, ownership starts fading from the culture itself. You stop expecting permanence. You stop expecting control. You stop expecting to keep things. That becomes normal. Monthly payments become normal. Temporary access becomes normal. Losing a feature after an update becomes normal. Finding out a movie moved to another service becomes normal. Realizing your playlists vanish when you cancel becomes normal. And that normalization is the biggest shift of all, because once people stop expecting ownership, it stops feeling like something they lost. It starts feeling like something outdated, old-fashioned, inconvenient, even unnecessary, But something interesting is happening now. People are starting to notice the trade. They're buying physical media again, keeping local files again, looking for products that can be repaired, choosing tools that stay stable, not because they hate convenience, because they've felt the cost of giving up too much control. They've seen what happens when everything lives behind a login, a payment, a connection, a license. It becomes fragile, not physically, systemically. One cancelled service, one removed title, one lost password, one shut down server, and pieces of your life disappear with it. That's why this matters. Because this was never just about music or movies or games or software. It's about the way modern life shifted from possession to permission, from keeping to accessing, from owning to subscribing, and permission feels a lot like ownership, right up until it gets taken away. That's the quiet decline, not that things disappeared overnight, that the meaning of having them changed, quietly, conveniently, almost invisibly, until one day you realize you don't own much anymore. You just have access, for now. And once you see it, you realize this wasn't one change, it was everything, quietly shifting at the same time. And once you stop owning things, you stop expecting them to stay the same. Music changes, movies disappear, games update constantly. Nothing feels fixed anymore. And that's when you realize it's not just what you own that changed, it's how everything is built, because nothing is ever truly finished anymore. Next, software is never finished.